Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the stream. It is I, DigiDriver. We are in Microsoft Flight Simulator, and I am going to jump right back into doing work at Plymouth Municipal, KPYM. I have been at this for a while, and the story that comes in when you start to get close to the finish line of any project is that you start to really see things pick up, or at least I think you do anyway. So, I am in the process of trying to plan the remaining work for this airport, and I'm just going to go ahead, jump right in, and we'll get started. Hope everybody's doing well tonight. I appreciate you stopping by and saying hello, whether it's you watching in the background and just lurking, or actually saying hi, or watching on the replay. So, thanks for coming in today, and I hope that your day is going okay. Now, I should be able to load in. I don't know if anybody else has experienced this. I have sometimes chosen a parking spot, but have loaded on the runway. And I think it has something to do with choosing it, double checking some things, and then eventually backing out. And backing out actually makes it go away. Gav, good evening. Good to see you, friend. Let's get underway, shall we? It's looking a little dark clouds over here, like it might open up. Let's load the scenery and get underway. So, it might have been a while since I've seen you in chat, Kev, but at the same time, I did spend some time recently adding some additional taxi backing apron textures. So we are going to continue and do just that. There's not too much left to do, and then we can move on to other things. So hopefully we'll be able to get some stuff done. And yes, this is the Global Freightways livery for the CJ4. And also, yes, I did fly that off stream recently. I flew from Block Island to Allentown, Pennsylvania. And believe it or not, this little plane has enough juice to get off the 2,500-foot runway at KBID and do it safely, which is utterly amazing. It's got a much better power to weight ratio than I was expecting. Power to weight. But yeah, um, we have, as you can tell, put backing textures for the taxi lines on the west ramp and on the main runway. And I think all of the main runway taxi backing lines are painted, but I need to actually get started on the rest of them. And hopefully it won't take too long, but you know what they say, it won't take too long unless you're taking too long to start. So let me do that. Uh, what can we do? What can we do? We can grab an apron texture like we usually do, and then determine where to go is objects, change that to apron, hit one-click placing, and then I can click. And then the reason why I go through those steps is so that I can be in the place where the apron textures are. So when I add apron texture backings, they go in the same group. There you go. I'll try to be consistent without being too hyper-focused. And what I'm hoping that produces is a result which is closer to what I want the result to be without taking so long and hyper focusing on painting the backing textures that I fry my brain. I usually don't like to do that. And some errors are to be expected. Again, this is manually painting the backing textures for this. I had one of my good friends, Wambi, come on stream, I think on Friday night, and talk to me about some differences between what the current methods are versus what they were. There actually is a set of materials that you can use for painting taxi lines, where you actually have the border be dark. The problem is that I noticed it's not it's not ideal. It's not perfect. Actually, excuse me, it's not perfect. It's actually not what I'm accustomed to or not what I want to see. So that's why I like to paint the backing lines myself, and then that way I know what to expect. I mean, yeah, if you use the materials, you will see it. It's not like you can't see it until the scenery renders. But what I'm trying to say is, by manually placing the backing textures myself, I have more control over what the end result's going to be. So, one long-winded way of saying, when I create the apron backings myself, I can adjust them, I can make them wider, narrower, do what's necessary to produce an effect and a result that I want. Doesn't always work out, but we try. So good evening again, everybody. Good to see you. Hope your weekend was very good. I am really trying to chip away at this project to get it ready for release soon. And one of my very good friends, someone you've probably also watched stream, Eric Flight, has been a great help and service to me in terms of getting me photos and talking to me about things to implement or the way things work at the airport. So if this comes out as a very good airport, you'll know pretty quickly why that happened. And essentially, I have him to thank for the motivation and the idea development. And yes, this does look probably boring or what you might say tedious. It is tedious, but it's something that I do. It's also something that I do when I want to, when I know I need to get it done and it, like I need to put my time in for the day, but it is something that I like to do. Now, I said how I'm doing this and I'm kind of going against what I said, so I don't want to overthink this too much. I don't want to spend too much time trying to lay down the backing textures because number one, I'm going to be revising these points anyway because I'm sure they're not going to be ideal. And number two, see point number one. Adjusting these is going to be necessary because these are being entered by hand. One way to get around this permanently is by creating the taxi lines for the airport yourself in something like Blender and then exporting it in a very specific way. It's called creating a projected mesh, what some people used to call ground polys. Projected mesh allows you to put down taxi lines or, I think like letters, like the things that you see on the ground when you roll up to a hold short point at a taxiway before you go into a runway. And the benefit that projected meshes have, like ground polys have over you placing three-dimensional objects that are supposed to behave like 2D objects, is that the ground polys automatically, I guess you could say they height adjust or they're draped over the ground. So what happens is, instead of you being concerned about, hey, is this going to stick all the way down to the ground? It always does every time. And all you have to do is figure out what you want to, what I'm trying to say, what you're trying to paint or what you're trying to place. So There is a brief primer on something which I eventually plan to do, even though I don't know how to do it right now. The idea sounds good, and actually, believe it or not, I think I actually tried it once. I want to keep trying it so I can start getting good at it. Because as detailed as this is also very much an attention focusing and I guess you could say problem causing issue. It's not impossible to do. It just takes commitment. Loads of it. And like I said before, the essential point that I'm making here is if you're going to use the manual painting method, which I'm using right now, expect to have to adjust those points once you get done, which is exactly what I aim to do right now. I think we're on number 9, so it's going to be East Apron, excuse me, East Apron Taxi Loop 9. And now we're going to pick the Asphalt 5 texture, and we're going to drape it over the surface selection, and now we can start adjusting these points. But the good thing is, because I spent a little bit of time and not too much time figuring out where I wanted those points to be, and because of the experience that I have placing points down in general, I have a general idea of how I want these points to look and how much space I want to have away from the taxi line. You can go pretty far away from the taxi line in one sense, but at the same time, you don't want too much stuff there. At least I don't. I want it to look fairly realistic, but I was talking about the way that the materials there's actually a material library here in the material editor for standard taxi line painting, and when you do painted lines in the sim, you pick the kind of line, whether it's a normal taxi line, a wide taxi line, like a hold short point, the ILS hold short, and there are different packages that are included by default. And one package has the, I believe, backing material available, or it came with one of the bespoke airports, but I don't know if it will work well in this instance. I guess I have to figure out what's up or how to actually do what it is that I do with it. Hmm. Don't think I need that point. I can probably use that one. There we go. In terms of progress on Plymouth, I would probably say if I can figure out how to get all these lines done and painted by the middle of this week, then I should be in a very good spot to be able to jump back into Blender work and start working on custom assets, start dressing up the other areas and likely creating more custom buildings, possibly additional interiors. I talked about that. I know I want to, so I'm going to work on that. And we'll keep going on this. I will probably be streaming tonight until about maybe 8 p.m. my time. Like office hours during the week are usually an hour to an hour and a half at most. Pavlin, hello friend. Welcome back. Good to see you. I hope that you are doing very well this evening. I am, as you can see, working on scenery dev. Good to see you. Welcome back. I was just talking about my the schedule I'm trying to keep so that I can actually release this around when I said I wanted to. I really want to shoot for the end of April. I really do. But there are probably going to be some things that may or may not prevent that from happening. Nice. Very good. Very good, friend. Congratulations. If you wonderful people did not know or weren't clued in, Pavlin came on stream, I think it was on Friday, and let me know that he was actually beginning to stretch into P3D scenery development, a an area which even I haven't dared to traverse. So I really do hope that you have lots of success in that area because there probably are some people that still use P3D fairly extensively. I mean, there are probably some people out there that still use Flight Sim 2004 because all their add-on aircraft are there. They're happy with it. They don't care. And public service announcement, if you're happy with your sim, it doesn't matter what sim it is. If it works for you, it works for you. On the 26th. Nice. Nice. Sheesh, man, it's like 10 days away. That quick. Is anybody else as kind of like pushed back as I am that it's already we're past the midpoint of April, technically speaking, and before you know it, it's gonna be May. A story of your life in symphony. That sounds epic. That does sound neat. I am gonna do that. Actually, you want to know what? I just realized something. I forgot to adjust my volume for the sim. So I'm going to check my volume. This is 7. There we go. You guys should hear ambient noises a lot more. Hey, come to listen. But this will be more interesting. Oh yeah, I would imagine if you're going to have more music piece, I'm sorry, instruments playing, then yes, it's going to be more varied, more rich. I don't know. I feel like this is getting a little too narrow, but let me just double check my lines. The lines look okay. Oh, wow. Pavlin, thank you for the 100 bits. I appreciate the support. You certainly didn't have to, but thank you. So that's interesting. These lines are getting a bit messier, and I don't want this to get too wide, but we'll see what happens. You remove that large amount, so why not? um, if anybody in chat is watching and didn't know what Pavlin was talking about, I had I for temporarily not I didn't disable cheering. I just made the minimum cheer amount very large. So I thought about it some more and I took that back and I was just like, let's make it 100 bits. Because like I'm not expecting people to tip, I'm not expecting people to cheer, but at the same time, if you want to, there you go. All right, so let's do this. Let's stretch this out. Okay, I think they're getting better now. I think. Hmm. Really weird that that particular line is so off off the mark. It looks like it's getting narrower as I get closer here. So let me stretch this out. Okay. And this is kind of trial and error. Some trial, plenty of error. I think that's better now. Maybe I'm incorrect. And I think right about here, I can stretch it out more. Yesterday, I spent time with family, but before I did that, in between things, I hopped in some aircraft and flew around.
Final approach checklist complete.
Pavlin, thanks for the resub. Thanks for the 6 months. Appreciate the support. I was flying the A310 and the CJ4 this weekend. The A310 is very interesting, but it's also a bit of a handful. And I also wanted to check out some sceneries that I recently got and installed through AnyBuilds. I have AnyBuilds LAX scenery, and I also have AnyBuilds Heathrow. And there is a lot to be modeled at both those airports. Those airports are not small airports, they are very large. Um, and I think they handle things differently when it comes to the difference between photogrammetry being on and off. Thank you. Um, I can't take the credit for that. That sound file is actually from FSX. And one day when I was trying to come up with really good alerts for my channel, I I started digging around the FSX directories and I found where the sound files were. And these are the sound files for the missions. I think that sound file is from the monsoon landing mission when you're landing at Singapore during the rainy season and you're flying the 747, the default 747, but the 747 nonetheless. And you start out like above the clouds, but when you start getting into the clouds and dealing with the storms and the winds, it gets pretty hectic pretty quick. But yeah, the sound effects, not the sound effects, the voices for the missions are phenomenal. I really haven't I really haven't seen for myself that the sound files in FS 2020 have superseded that of the actors in FSX. My personal opinion. I mean, feel free to correct, not correct me, but since it is opinion, but feel free to believe or disagree. But I do like all the people that actually contributed to the voice files for FSX. Kind of like how I like people that contributed to the voice files for GSX. But at the same time, they're different. Unless some of those folks actually did voiceovers for both GSX as well as FSX, which could be a thing. You never know. But while we're on the subject, monsoon landing was challenging mission, but I think some of my favorite missions are the Telluride landing in the Learjet, the Caribbean landing in the CRJ, and there's one more. There's like one or two more. Oh yeah, the oil rig rescue mission in the Bell Jet Ranger, which is one of the most intense missions that you can go on in the game, other than flying the Mount St. Helens rescue. Yes, yes. Okay. So you have custom sounds for your airliners. Back when I was pretty significantly into X-Plane, I was using I think it was FT Sim Plus sound packs that were available for those aircraft. And it was hit or miss for me, probably because I, number one, kind of didn't know what I was doing. And number two, the airplanes that I had in general had okay sounds. There were only a few exceptions. I think I got like an F mod sound pack for the VMAX 787 that I had for X-Plane 11, which was actually ported from X-Plane 10. Gotcha. And yeah, that looks a lot better. That looks a lot better. I think I'll take this. I think I'll take this. Um, Not gonna lie, I will say this unashamedly. I want to create taxi lines, but I don't want to spend all day trying to make them perfect. And I know that's going to elicit some comments like, "Oh, they're thick here, they're thin there." Yes, yes, that's for sure. I want to try to make them better, but at the same time, I'm not going to stress if they're not. This is gonna help me to get an idea of how wide or narrow I want these. And I think I just adjusted this even better. All right, that's actually good. All right, let's make the next apron segment. But I do hope everybody's doing well today. Just a word of warning for anybody. I am keeping an eye on a situation right now. I do not anticipate abruptly ending the stream for any reason. Well, excuse me. Let me say that again. I'm keeping myself um, alerted to a particular situation. Nothing happening to me personally, but in case I need to go and take care of something, I will let you know, and I will wrap up the stream pretty quickly. But otherwise, I plan on being on here until probably about 8 o'clock. And if I do stream later, it'll be a quiet stream. But otherwise, it's just me, chat, and some painted lines and some backing textures. The project, I think, to paint all these dark background textures has probably been going on for the past, I want to say, 2 or 3.5 weeks. And as you can tell, these are all custom painted. So there we go. And now I can do this. Corners are pretty touchy. So what I'm doing right now is just laying the groundwork down for the adjustments, because I will have to adjust. But at the same time, this shouldn't take me too long to do. And in that, I can kind of step on the gas a little bit and not take too long to put the lines down, because I know I'm going to have to adjust them. Oh, I hear someone here. Ah, okay. They're going to take off. Enjoy your flight wherever you are. All right, that backing segment is done. I can remove one click placing, and now this is loop 10. I don't know why I call them taxi loops when there's segments, but it's one of those, I guess you could call them habits that just stick. So now that I have a general idea of what the distance is supposed to be, I can stretch these points out, which is what I'll do now. Do I want to bisect this? I think I do. I think I also want to bring them out a bit more. This is kind of where it gets a little tricky to stay aware of your distance. And get detail with your curves. Fortunately, that's not bad. There are a few ways you can do this. Actually, strike that. I'm sure there are many ways you can paint these lines by hand, but I sometimes adjust both sides as I'm going along, because once I get to the other end, I won't have to turn around and do the same work for the return side, whichever side I didn't adjust. And in my opinion, that kind of gives you a little morale boost, because you're like, oh, okay, I don't have to adjust this again. This one's done. But again, reference my previous argument. This is not something for the faint-hearted. It is going to require a lot of manual adjustment, and you are going to be taking time to do all this. So be warned, if you do this by hand, it's going to cost you time. Hello again, Pavlin. Welcome back. Okay, so you didn't miss too much. I finished the one taxi line segment. I'm working on another one. And hopefully this will be done well. Need to push this one in a bit. Yeah. And this one needs to come out. Today is also Easter Day for you, so happy Easter to you. And may God bless you. Mrs. Digi and I are trying to figure out if we will be able to attend FS Expo this year. The last time we planned on going was in 2020 when they planned on having it in Las Vegas. Unfortunately, as many of you know, that was a very bad year for travel. So, for obvious reasons, that plan got scrubbed. And then the following year, they had it in San Diego, and it was a little strange because, well, I take that back. It wasn't strange. It just, you know, some people attended, some people didn't. We were all in like, different places deciding, hey, is this something I want to attend or is it just not the year for me? So 2022, I forget where it was in 2022. I'm assuming it was back in San Diego again, or if it was somewhere else, I forget where. But now this year's going to be in Houston. And money, of course, is the biggest consideration. Timing, not so much because I'm in a place where we can actually do that. And hello, NES Atlas coming in with a party of two. NES Atlas, party of two. NES Atlas, party of two. Good afternoon and welcome aboard. NES Atlas, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, if you do not know, is a member of Twitch that likes playing video games and, if correct me if I'm wrong, retro video games on stream. It wasn't too long ago that I was actually beginning to wander into the retro group to watch people playing games like NES Atlas and Arcus and Kaon. And it is interesting when they're watching a game that really kind of grabs your attention. I'm a bit of a softie for games from the Nintendo Entertainment System. Welcome aboard NES Atlas. Good to see you. And unlike many of the streams that I do when I'm quiet and I'm just focusing on creating scenery, this is one of those rare ones when I actually have my microphone turned on. Retro gaming is interesting. It's like when I was growing up, it was like, oh, like this game only has like 16 colors. Like, I want to go to the arcade and spend some quarters. And now you grab like, you know, a shrink wrapped, sealed box copy of like Space Quest 2, and you're like, oh, this is amazing. Or in your case, NES Atlas, it'll be like a shrink wrap copy of Final Fantasy, or I don't know, Bayou Billy, or um, the original Contra. But there is definitely an unavoidably powerful nostalgia that I have for old video games. And I appreciate having folks in the community like you that play them. If you found a sealed game. Yeah, yeah. I would have to say. I have a few. So here's my story, okay? I grew up with a computer because I had to, um, give away the game system that I had at the time, and I spent more time on the computer than on consoles. That kind of balanced itself out in my adult years, but at the same time, I really, really, really like the most the Nintendo, the NES, not the Super NES. And I'll explain why. Because even the Super NES, being a more rich and graphically powerful video game system, didn't make me feel as content with the games that I could play on it as opposed to the NES. And I didn't realize this at the time, but the Nintendo, back in that era, they had a supremely, I don't know if you can call it ingenious, but it was basically very, very geared towards, I guess, Nintendo having the final say over what a game could and couldn't be. So they kind of had a lock on the industry in terms of what games were licensed or released, unless, of course, you did not want the official Nintendo seal of approval. I'm talking about Tengen, of course. Unless they did. I forget. I don't think they did. And you could release games for the console that weren't officially licensed. But I mean, just drill down to the point. There were so many games you could pick from, so many options you had as a gamer, and so many great companies. Hudson Soft, Sunsoft, Capcom, Konami, um, Trade West, American Technos. What was that? I think Trade West was the one that had the Double Dragon and Battletoads series. So yeah, there were many, many, many options. I mean, I haven't covered them all. Like Tecmo, clearly, and yeah, a lot of games were released for that system. You want to talk about clout? I mean, there was so much that were released for it. Amen. Between you and Arcus and Kaon, there are more than a few NES games that I forgot about, which I think I enjoyed playing a lot, but didn't stop to think about too much back in the day, like Skate or Die 2, or what are the games that I like that I don't have anymore? Not Road Blasters. I actually have Rad Racer. Rad Racer 2 was kind of interesting as well. I don't have that one, but it's nice. It's nice to be able to see people playing games and you go like, "Oh wow, I remember this game." And then like your nostalgia hits and then you start thinking about what it is you did or how you played or who you were hanging out with at the time and you're like, "Oh, that's what I call nostalgia." But yeah. But I am a flight simulation pilot as well. And actually, there's a story to that as well. I got into flight sim streaming back in I want to say 20 late 2017, early 2018. And I was flying with Microsoft Flight Simulator X Steam Edition at the time. And I didn't have a very powerful computer, but I still enjoyed it anyway. And then eventually I got my hands on a desktop and I started playing X-Plane. And then I eventually bought the newest Microsoft Flight Simulator and I flew that right around until the beginning of 2022. And then I just got to a point where I was just like, you know what? I'm not sure I want to do this anymore because and this is just me being really honest, I was at a point where I was confused. I liked talking to people and streaming, but at the same time, I was trying to figure out whether or not I really did want to make a career out of streaming on Twitch, which I'm not choosing to. And I got to a point where I was just like, well, if I can't enjoy this without streaming it on Twitch, then maybe I need to back up and take a break for a while and discover what it is I want to do. So I stopped for a little bit, and then a little bit became a longer bit. I think I took like a 3 week or a 4 week break. And in that break, I discovered that there was something that I used to do which I was curious about. Actually, the summer before then, in 2021, I experimented with taking satellite images or 3D scenery and exporting them to Microsoft Flight Simulator. And the problem with that was I could never figure out what the quality options were so that I could actually export the 3D buildings correctly without them looking really low quality. So that bummed me out, and I backed away from it. I just kept playing the sim, and I kept enjoying myself. So when I decided that I wanted to take a break from streaming, eventually I came back to wondering, hey, can I build airports? And the reason I thought to myself about that was because I saw people talking about that um, on Reddit, and I wonder, if somebody wants an airport built and it hasn't been built yet. So I found Higginsville in Missouri. The airport code is Kilo Hotel India Golf. And the default airport was okay, but it didn't have some of the features that the real world airport did. So I decided I was going to fix the airport and add the pieces that were missing. I released it. I had some folks download it, leave me some nice comments, and I said, okay, let me make another airport. Fast forward to today, I released 2 other freeware airports, and then I released a payware airport for download for purchase from SimMarket, W94, which is a private airport outside of Williamsburg, Virginia. And then I sold a few copies of it, and I thought to myself, okay, I'm officially a professional scenery developer. I've taken money for people actually purchasing and using scenery, and I was able to actually make that happen. So here I am at Plymouth Municipal Airport in Plymouth, Massachusetts, working on a new project to hopefully release soon. Probably also on SimMarket, maybe on one other place, but we'll see. Yes, and I think it was harder to actually realize that back when the hobby was, in like the late 90s and the early 2000s. But essentially, I believe there are some ground rules you have to follow. Yeah, actually, this is kind of cool. And NES Atlas, if I was being honest, I can tell you this honestly. I actually like creating airports about as much as I like flying into and out of them. Now, there are some basic ground rules to follow. You can't just create an airport using the same stock assets from the simulator, release it, and expect to make lots of money. Flight sim pilots like myself usually have differing tastes, but I think most people would probably tell you if there's nothing but what they call stock assets used for an airport, they're probably not going to spend any money on it. Matter of fact, if a free airport is released with mostly stock assets, other than folks that use it, that enjoy it because it's their home airport and absolutely nobody's modeled it, or it's a project that they've seen someone put a lot of effort into and they want to show them some support, it's hmm. Actually, you know what? I take that back. I think many flight sim pilots are willing to give scenery developers opportunities to release scenery that they haven't seen before. And I think we value creativity and the ability to fly to places that don't look like computer generated hotel buildings, the terminals. But at the same time, that's what Asobo had to work with in terms of stock assets, and that's okay. That's a building block to something better. Now we have lots of folks that are creating and releasing airports. And even there's even talk about a kind of default airport improvement program where people can submit versions of airports that actually look the way much closer to what they look like in real life because people are putting in the effort to build them, to create them. If you would have asked me that question about a year or two ago, I would have probably said yes. But I believe there are some smaller airports that Microsoft has actually created as custom airports. One example is Block Island Airport, outside of like Rhode Island, outside of Long Island. It's a very small airport. It's Kilo Bravo India Delta. It is a general aviation airport, mostly used for very light aircraft. The runway is only 2,500 feet long. Oh, so you've been to Block Island. Anytime you stop into anyone's flight sim stream, ask them one question. Ask them if they've flown into or out of Block Island. Don't be afraid to ask them either. I sometimes I don't do it as much anymore, but I used to do a lot of flying. And I've actually flown in P3D into and out of Block Island because I had custom scenery from Orbex. You live in southeastern Connecticut. Nice, nice. So what I guess I'm not sure if Microsoft created a custom version of the airport or if they contacted Orbex for permission to use their scenery for an update. But I know if you load into the sim in Block Island, you will see a custom terminal and you'll see the runways, you'll see cars parked there. There will be people that are ready to push your plane back, and so on and so forth. And I feel like I should apologize for what I said before, so I'm going to go ahead and say that. The reason why, probably the main reason why Microsoft was able to include so many airports around the world was probably because they came up with a way of using artificial intelligence to model the airports, basically, and to use stock buildings to create the terminal buildings, the jetways, things like that. So, whatever you want to call it, I think it was like Azure AI. That's what was used to model the terminals in places like, I don't know, LaGuardia or Amarillo or um, Lubbock or Cedar Rapids or in some cases Albuquerque. So the benefit of that, of course, is that it's given the scenery developer companies like myself the ability to come in and to improve upon that scenery. Now, sometimes Microsoft improves on bigger airports and on smaller airports too. They call those bespoke or handcrafted airports. And they use certain techniques to make them look more realistic without spending a lot of time adding excessive details. Now, like I said, some flight sim pilots have differing tastes. Some folks like excessive details. I joke around in my head, like some of us won't be satisfied until you can land a 737 into LaGuardia or, Champaign-Urbana in Illinois and walk out of your airplane, walk into the terminal, go to the coffee shop, order a virtual latte, and sit and watch other planes arrive and depart. I think the closest that we've actually come to that is people doing that kind of thing in Grand Theft Auto or in, believe it or not, Roblox. Yes, I said Roblox. And believe it or not, I watched a video some years back when people in Roblox were flying virtual airlines like Swiss. And the airport was, like a building, and you bought your tickets, you went through airport security, you could go sit down or go eat food somewhere. If you bought a certain kind of ticket, you could probably get access to the airline lounge. And I'm chuckling as I say this because the entire experience was modeled. You could go sit, look at airplanes come in and leave. You could, you waited and then you actually boarded the aircraft. And depending on the ticket that you bought, you were either going to sit in like business class or first class. And the pilots flew the plane and you were a passenger and you got to, take your choice of food and drink. And yeah, you would fly from place to place. Now, the difference, of course, is in MSFS, there's more ground details. I mean, you can't argue with the fact that in MSFS, um, almost the entire world is represented in terms of satellite imagery. There are some places that require synthetic imagery because there's literally no probably satellite photos available. I don't think there are any satellite photos available for Antarctica, but maybe I'm wrong. With that said, the simple fact is Microsoft achieved something unbelievable. They not only covered almost the entire planet in satellite imagery, they basically created airports in so many places that you can literally hop in an airliner and fly from JFK to, I don't know, um, London, and then fly from London to, um, airports in India. And it is amazing. Now, those airports aren't always going to have the level of detail that you want them to have. But like I said, that leaves companies like mine the ability to come in and create more detailed versions because some people literally want more detail at an airport. It does take effort though. Even creating the code required to create custom airports wherever you go, that doesn't come cheap. You know, you need to understand how much horsepower to give the artificial intelligence so that you can actually create all those airports automatically. And there's certain things the AI does and certain things it doesn't do. So far be it from me to say that I can, you know, do a better job. The Lord forgive me. I still have a long, long way to go. But at the same time, it's nice to be in a position to be able to undertake the adventure. And I do hope, this is me talking, I do hope that I actually get the opportunity to do this on a continuing basis and earn the chunk, earn the change, the monies to enjoy the process with and share the experience with more people. It's not easy. It takes time, it takes effort, and you're occasionally going to look at it and be like, oh, this sucks, like I can't get this right. But one of the things that I'm trying to get past is myself. You know, you're not going to improve unless you dare to fail. I think it was the Greek philosopher Epictetus that said, "If you wish to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." And at the same time, we talk about people that are trying to make efforts to do stuff, and yeah, like your first efforts to do things, they're not going to be professional unless you are working with a studio or a company that's helping you create a piece of art, and they're helping you every step of the way. So like your first art piece is absolutely amazing. But in some ways, I almost feel like you're doing yourself a disservice if you want to grow and improve in a certain way, because failure makes the experience more enjoyable when you succeed. If all you do is create successful things left and right and you never fail, it's like, well, is it, are you actually, going from strength to strength, or did you just find something that you can do really well, and that's just it? Like, you just gonna keep plugging away there. I mean, hats off to people if they can do that. That's great. I guess what I'm trying to say is this is something that I haven't done in a long time and something that I want to keep going into, but it is going to require continued improvement. And that costs. That costs time, that costs ego. It costs humbling yourself and understanding you're going to mess up. And some of us, myself included, sometimes struggle with that because we'd rather look good than put in the effort to get better and risk looking bad or looking silly. When you are able to accomplish something, when a professional bodybuilder is able to, I don't know, deadlift 350 pounds for the first time, and they've put in the work, and they've gone to the gym, and they've worked on their diet, and they've done all this stuff, and they get to that place where they're like, they go, "Raw," you just pick up that huge weight, and they're just so happy, like, you know that was a quest. Be it an NES quest or not, that was a quest. And you get to the finish line and you're like, wow, it was a trip, and now look where we are. Maybe maybe we all just need to stop being so afraid to fail. Because I can tell you, um, life is not always perfect. Actually, life is rarely perfect. And right now, my thoughts and prayers are with a family member that is not feeling well and is in the hospital. And the Lord is with them. And I pray that I get a chance to, visit them when they're over that and put my arms around them and be grateful for another opportunity to spend time with them. But sometimes in life, the really scary stuff happens. And for me, as a follower of Christ, all I can do is pray to the Lord and ask for the wisdom and the strength to push on, to to hope for healing and restoration and all the things. But sometimes in life, no means no. And sometimes in life, I have to wait and I have to be apart from people that I care about. It's like sometimes it doesn't matter whether or not you live right next door to somebody or not. Like if they're dealing with something, or if they're what am I trying to say? If they're um wrestling with something, you can offer support and you can be with them sometimes, unless they're going to have to endure major medical surgery and you literally can't be in the operating room. But I don't know. What am I trying to say? I guess what I'm trying to say is that sometimes life sucks. And the reason why I'm able to maintain any kind of grip on reality at all, for me, is because I have a personal relationship with God through Jesus Christ. And I want everybody to be a Christian, same as me, but I want you to understand something. If you're watching the stream right now, I want you to know that I appreciate having you here. Um, I want you to come to know Jesus and be saved like I am, but I'm not going to shove what I believe down your throat. I appreciate having you here. I appreciate your company, whether you're watching and chatting or lurking. And I hope that you continue having a great day wherever you are. And if you're not, I hope and pray that it does come for you. Because, like I said, life moves pretty fast. And I, like many people, push, sometimes push hard to, you know, change my circumstances and get better at stuff so that I can do different things. And sometimes it's great, and sometimes it's scary. But my wife is a reminder to me many times, like, you know, don't beat yourself down. Don't don't let yourself get negative, because then you're going to have difficulty. You're going to start losing steam, and then it's going to get harder to do stuff. She's smart. She's very smart. I love her. I think once I clean these taxi lines up, I will probably be able to wrap this stream and see where else I can work on. Maybe not tonight, or maybe tonight a little bit off stream. I will continue. I do hope to have the borderline work done by the middle to the end of this week. By the end of this week, I should be done painting all these lines, and we should be able to excuse me, to start focusing on building the buildings and adding all the little finishing touches to the airport. It depends. It depends on how much time I have, because I don't This is not what I do for a living. Um, that would be phenomenal if I could. If I had the income and the capacity to do this as a full-time job, I probably would. But at the same time, it it's challenging. I mean, life is challenging. So you have jobs that pay the bills. I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure over 75 to 90% of us have jobs that we do that we often enjoy or sometimes enjoy, but many times also have difficulty with because the circumstances are different, or you have to do certain things a certain way, and you're like, you want to do better at something, but you can't because the challenge is, okay, how am I going to get this done while working this other job? I don't know if anybody understands what I mean, but that's where I am. But also, I think in life, sometimes you get to a place where the things you started out doing that you liked a lot, they change over time. I mean, a big fat, for instance. I started this whole Twitch stream thing because I wanted to be a very successful flight sim streamer. And I saw people at the time like John Fly and Brad M, Puck Vanek, and there were other streamers too, like Cat Strader, Think Tactical, that were doing this and getting the subscriptions and getting the tips and the cheers and the raids. And I was like, yeah, I want to do that too. And then eventually, after some time, you do actually start getting people following you, and you grow your brand and your channel. Lines me likey. Hello, my friend. Welcome aboard. Snare17, another longtime friend of the channel, and somebody that not too long ago was actually working on some scenery. He may still be working on the Greensboro scenery in North Carolina. Now, on the other hand, it's okay if you don't, because I know your new adventure. You are working towards that license and flying for different reasons too. So my hat's off to you. I would like to get a PPL at some point in the not too distant future, but of course those things require time, a good schedule that supports being able to take the classes and do well on them, etc., etc., etc. But welcome aboard, my friend. You are joining me at the tail end of my stream, but I tell you what, I am not going to close the stream until I'm done cleaning up these backing lines for this taxiway. And I will show you the taxiways that I've built so far for Plymouth. Labor of love, this is. Yoda was the first thing that came to mind. True story, I did a VATSIM flight voicing Yoda. Proper phraseology I used. Flew out of Moncton Center. They got a humongous kick out of it. But yeah, um, this does take time. This does take time. Now, okay, NES Atlas, you might or might not know this. When you're flying in the sim, you can fly using multiplayer, or you can fly using what they call air traffic control networks. There are more than a few out there. Most are free. Some of them require a subscription. But one of the most popular ones, if not the most popular air traffic control network out there, is called VATSIM. VATSIM. And essentially, VATSIM is a place where people get together. They do flights with air traffic control. Air traffic controllers basically help you get from place to place, and you do your thing. There were some changes done to the rules and the guidelines to make people understand, hey, when you're on the network, you should probably be more knowledgeable about X and Y. And I don't think they did it so that people go like, hey, we have to be like super serious when we're flying. But I think it's probably improved the caliber or the intent by which people get onto the network to fly. Air traffic controllers just get in the way. Spoken by somebody that is one. Am I right? Um, how's that going for you, by the way? Oh no, wait, wait, wait. Are you still one? Or were you one at all? I thought you were at one point. Forgive me if I'm wrong here. But yeah. Um I I get you. I get you. A lot of folks in the network actually, they recognize it. They want people to have fun. They want people to abide by the rules as well. Still ITC. Okay. Yeah, 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 yeah. There we go. There we go. That that was essentially what I was trying to remember. And yes, I was more or less on the right track. But yeah, on VATSIM, it's generally encouraged to, pay attention and follow proper phraseology so you make your requests and stuff like that. Oh. Don't mind me, folks, to do a quick break to check on something, but yeah, we're good. We're good. Uh, yes. So, instrument check right on the 26th? Dude, that's epic. Congrats, and Lord willing, I pray it goes superb. It might be a challenge, but hey, challenges can be good. All the best, man. I hope you do very well. But yeah, an extremely roundabout way of saying if you do it right, you can talk like Yoda on VATSIM on frequency and not have many people be upset. Should you do that every time you fly on VATSIM? I would probably advise against it. But such is life. VATSIM becoming the no fun network? Well, depending on who you talk to about that, they're going to have differences of opinion. I still like flying on VATSIM because I've got a lot of hours on the network, and in general, I try to understand what it is they're telling me to do, but there are still some things that I don't understand. Number one would be holds, but I think even the free aircraft in Microsoft Flight Simulator, the airliners, I mean, are getting to the point where you can actually execute holds more easily. You always fly on VATSIM. Good for you. Great. So, there you go. Enjoy it. I plan on enjoying VATSIM for at least the foreseeable future. I think they'd have to go and do something pretty dumb for me to be like, you know what, I'm done. There are occasional teething issues, if you will, but overall, I've liked the experience. VATSIM has got you into being ATC. Nice. Well, there you go. There you go, folks. And I think also, in general, flight simming got a lot of people interested in becoming real world pilots. And so you actually have real pilots that got into the industry because they spent time in a simulator and said, I want to do this for real life. So they did. And yes, I'm sure they are way more knowledgeable and skilled at flying a real plane than a simulated one. So relax. I think we're good. But All this to say, those lines look sweet. I know there's a way you can get default taxi lines to have built-in coloring. However, based on the last few times I tried it and those pictures that I put in your Discord a while ago, Snare, I just wasn't pleased enough with the results to say I want to go ahead and use that. I am artificially
Good evening, ma'am. How are you?
puffing this
I'm doing
up.
good.
Valinar, thank you for the follow. Welcome aboard. Hope you enjoyed or will enjoy watching this in future dev streams. I typically dev during the week. I have started to get into a habit of not doing dev work on the weekends, with the exception of today, of course. But in general, I would say you're going to catch me doing streams like this more on a weeknight than during the weekday, than during the weekend. I used to only stream once a week, but now I did these quiet developer streams where I don't have my microphone on, maybe just the ambient noise from the sim and creating stuff like these lines for Plymouth. I'm probably going to do this for like another 5 or 10 minutes, just make sure this line looks good. And then we're going to wrap it, and I'm going to show you the areas that I've touched on so far at this airport, and then think about the next possible day or night for streaming. I am probably, I'm not going to guarantee this, but probably be streaming either tomorrow night, Wednesday, and then maybe either Thursday or Friday, or Tuesday and Thursday of this week. I might alternate between them so that I don't stream like inconsistently, but so that if I do 2 streams, there's always going to be the chance of doing a third during the week, but probably not always. I'm moving away from doing streams on the weekends to, I think enjoy flying the sim a bit more during the weekend and not do scenery dev so much. But at the same time, I really do like doing scenery dev, and it is something that I find, like I said before, about as enjoyable or almost as enjoyable as actually flying fake planes in the sim. So let me do this. First thing I'm going to do is save the scenery. Second thing I'm going to do is hit the build all button. We are going to build. This thing takes a while to build. There's a lot of changes that have been made. And then we're going to wait for that screen to pop up, which hopefully will pop up in about 10 or 15 seconds. Come on. It takes a while. There we go. My fan was kicking up. That's how I knew that it was about to finish the build. I'm going to close these windows up, and then we're going to take a look at some of the changes that I've done here so far. So we're going to hide the editing boxes so that it is much easier to show this place off. And there we go. Okay, so here's the difference between a custom backing taxi line and what you can put down normally. It's much easier to see on a runway surface like this, as opposed to this where it kind of blends in. Of course, high contrast colors stick out. But this is Plymouth Municipal Airport, as clearly delineated by the big Plymouth sign on the tarmac. This was on a satellite imagery, so I had to include it. This is a general aviation airport just outside of Maine, Plymouth, Massachusetts. I said Maine, not the state, but I was just saying mainline Plymouth, Massachusetts. And there's plenty of GA traffic that's here. There's a custom terminal that I want to model, and I took advantage of some photos available online to put a kind of like fuel place here where you could actually get your plane fueled up. I might make this a bit more detailed, put like valves and stuff, and nozzles for like your airplane or your jet. There are other hangers that I have yet to create, but I have created some custom hanger slash storage looking um, places here so that you can like park a plane or put parts into. And this is the one of the entrances. You have all these signs out here, and I even made a sign that takes you to Alpha 1 flight. And then you have, you know, these signs that say, hey, enter only with airport manager's permission. And you even have something I added a little while ago, which is a keypad entry thingy, which I created a custom PBR texture for, so it looks like the numbers are sticking out. There are plenty of things you have to do by hand. You have to lay the fence down by hand. There's no fence painting available as an option in MSFS yet. And you do have to create, you have to choose your textures, but at the same time you have agency over how those textures get laid down. You can scale them, you can rotate them. And these are some custom hangers that I've created. I'm probably going to put more details into them. I might put posters on the walls. I might make them a little dirty. I'm probably going to change the color of this floor because these hangers probably aren't going to be as, what's the word? They're, they're not going to be as pristine. I'm pretty sure there's going to be a lot of clutter. And I think I need to put some, stock objects in here so they look great. The lighting lights up at night, goes away in the daytime. And I'm also working on a custom building for the Alpha 1 flight school. So essentially, you can park aircraft in here, and then you can get out. Well, you can't get out in the sim, but I'm saying you will have an area, which I'm probably going to put a table at. These are closets, so to speak, where you can hang your jackets up. Maybe a little coffee table with like magazines, some papers and stuff. And I'll probably put some tables and chairs in these rooms so that you can actually have offices. I'm probably going to put a break room. I might even have some like animated coffee, stuff like that. That's a closet. That's another office. And then here is the other hanger. And then, you might even be able, I might even add a start position inside one of the hangar buildings, and you'll see what happens. These are all start positions. Everywhere you see a white T, I put a start position as well. And also, I also decided to put helipads in here. And in the sim, you can actually choose to start at a helipad. These three are going to belong to, I believe, the Massachusetts State Police. And these 5 and 2 are, I think, private ones as well. But they are actually functional helipads. You can spawn a helicopter at one of them if you want to. Otherwise, again, I spent a lot of time doing the backing textures for the taxiways. They're not perfect, I know. It's what I know how to do right now, so I'm happy with that. And you have more start positions over here. In fact, it was one of the first things I did. My friend Eric Flight said that the stock airport has you starting with a plane like sideways, not facing up or down, so to speak, but facing either towards the runway or away from it. So I went to lengths to make sure these actually are pointing up and down and they start that way. And then eventually I'm probably going to put taxiway signs here so you know where you're going. And Eric Flight, if you are lurking, or if anybody that's watching this actually flies in or out of Plymouth, please let me know if I can find updated charts somewhere, because I need to know what these taxiways are named so that I can actually label the taxiway signs correctly. There are more start positions here, and eventually I'm probably going to also put 1 or 2 custom buildings back here as well, as many as I can, especially for the hangars. This is actually a little experiment where I stacked textures on top of each other just to get the ground to look fairly realistic. I even added some custom kind of concrete textures here as a way of saying there were buildings here, but they're not. And some custom kind of like asphalt work here where they were like, working on something and they filled it back up, or they painted or they fixed something, kind of added it for effect. But there's more for me to do, and this airport is not done yet. Eventually, what I might even do is I might create a custom rotating beacon for this airport and make it smaller, because I don't think the beacon for Plymouth is that large. Actually, I'm pretty sure it's like about half the size of it. I just need to take some time figuring out how to map it. And honestly, if all it is like rectangles and cubes and segments like this, it might not be too hard to create, but it is going to take some time to build, because you can see there's like so many segments of this. It is just a stock rotating beacon, but you get my point. Like, it's going to take a little bit of time to build, but that's okay. A good chunk of work goes into also building these lines as well for the parking spaces, and I hand place the cars as well. Um, there is a way to kind of let the game randomize where the cars are parked if you're okay with default parking where they all like kind of line up in a grid or a rectangle or a cube. But I like placing them by hand, and I also like putting down, concrete bumpers so that they look like they do in real life, personally. Ooh. See ya. But I tried to model things appropriately, and this is about as close to real world texturing as I'm going to get right now. So, yeah, that's about it. I'm like a little bit over my time, but at the same time, I wanted to give you guys a tour and see what you guys thought of the scenery. I'm planning on releasing this either end of April or sometime in May. I'm going to be working with my friend Eric Flight for quality assurance and to make sure that this actually works the way it's supposed to. I do have to clean up a little bit, just a little bit of texturing here. There's like a teensy bit of Z fighting, but that's okay. Otherwise, I'll add more custom buildings. I might randomize which doors are open and closed on these hangars so they don't all look the same. Or I might leave them all open too. It depends. These are stock buildings still, these two.
Final approach checklist complete.
Ooh, Iowa Scotsman with a tier 1 sub. Hello, my friend. Welcome back, and thanks for 21 months. I really appreciate having you in the community and for your support. Thank you very much. I I'm glad to have you aboard today while we did a quick scenery job. We were creating some additional painted lines for this place, and I have to do some more painted lines, which I'll probably do tonight. Good evening, Iowa Scotsman. Thank you for coming in today. I might move where the windsock is, or I might leave these stock windsocks alone. I don't know. That's something I'm going to have to talk to Eric Flight about, and anybody that's actually also been here as well in real life, to find out where these should be placed so they're more, I don't know, they're better visible, but we'll see. Yeah, so be looking for more information about this. And you want to know what? I want to give you guys the opportunity to come and find me on Discord. So I don't put my invites out very often. I like curating and keeping my community small and manageable. But tonight I will give you a chance to come in if you so choose. It's kind of like, like Disney unlocking the vault so you can buy those videos again. Kind of. But it's not all that. It's a small community of people, and I like having folks sharing screenshots and talking about flight sim and certain things. But by the same token, it's up to you if you guys want to come in or not. Never expected, but appreciated, of course. I will put the link in chat, and then essentially you can click on the link. You'll come into my Discord, and then I'll give you guys roles and stuff to be able to chat and to do things. And yeah, thanks for stopping by today. I appreciate having you folks aboard. I'm privileged to have you all here, whether you're watching. I'm going to say hi to all the bots. Uh, and we will go and raid someone right now and see who's on. There should be plenty of folks on tonight, and then we can see who it is we're going to say hello to. So I think, as I check my list here, I have to change my sword. Twitch always likes to put these things in a non-numeric order. Don't know why. I think we're going to say hi to QF Music, one of her friends from Twitch that's been around for a while. So let's go ahead and set up a raid right now. QF Music. Thanks again so much, you guys, for stopping by and saying hello and sharing in the conversation. Like I always like to say at the end of each stream, if you want true peace, you want to know the Prince of Peace, and that is Jesus Christ. Oh, okay, follower or subscriber only chat. Okay, I thought it was only subscriber only. Folks, take care. Hope you have a great rest of your evening. Thanks again to Pavlin for the 100-bit share and the sub. Thanks again to Iowa Scotsman for coming in with a 21-month resub. And I hope you guys have a great evening. Take care. Let's show QF Music some love when we come into our channel. And have a great night. Till next time. Bye-bye.